بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Kashf al-Murad. We were discussing arguments for Imamah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and the last thing we mentioned was Ayatul Wilaya, and now we want to refer to Hadith al-Ghadir. Khaj rahmatullah alayhi says ولحديث الغدير المتواتر. One more reason is Hadith al-Ghadir, which is mutawatir. Al-mutawatir is adjective for hadith. Hadith al-Ghadir al-mutawatir means al-hadith al-mutawatir lil-Ghadir. Mutawatir, as you know, is a hadith which has been so many times mentioned, generation after generation, that leaves no doubt about authenticity and correctness of this hadith. If it's narrated by 2, 3, 4, no, we don't call it mutawatir. Or for example, we have many people have narrated this, but for example from 3rd generation, 4th generation, 2nd century, 3rd century, but all go back to one person or two people. This is not mutawatir. Mutawatir is that all the way from the one who has said this hadith, the ma'soom, the infallible, who has said this, up to those who have registered this and have passed on to us, must be mutawatir. For example, up to Sheikh al-Kulayni has to be mutawatir. Then we have to establish our way towards Sheikh al-Kulayni, for example. Up to Sheikh al-Tusi, then we establish our way towards Sheikh al-Tusi. If up to Sheikh al-Kulayni or Sheikh al-Tusi is mutawatir, then it continues afterwards as well. Because the more we come forward, the more channels and chains become available. So, Hadith al-Ghadir is mutawatir. Actually, when you want to mention an example for Hadith al-Mutawatir, one of the best examples is Hadith al-Ghadir. Sunni, Shia, all have narrated this hadith. Yes, there might be some disagreement about interpretation of the hadith that we will discuss, but no one questions that this was said by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allama Hilli rahmatullah alayhi says هذا دليل آخر على إمامة علي عليه السلام. This is another proof, another argument for Imamah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. وتقريره, the way to articulate this is this: أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله قال في غدير خم وقد رجع من حجة الوداع. While the Prophet had returned from farewell Hajj in a place which was called Ghadir Khum, he said this. This is where today we go also for ihram. If people who travel from outside Mecca, if they go to Jeddah, then they go to Juhfa, and one of the mawaqit is Juhfa. This is where Ghadir Khum was there. Those who go from Medina, of course, they go to Masjid al-Shajara, which is different. So Rasulullah said, Ma'ashir al-Muslimin, because he had asked everyone to gather. People who had gone ahead, they were asked to come back. Some people were behind, they waited for them to join, so there was a crowd. Rasulullah said, Ma'ashir al-Muslimin. Oh, groups of Muslims, oh Muslim Ummah. Alastu awla bikum min anfusikum. Am I not more entitled to decide for you than you yourself? Don't I have more authority over you than you do over yourself? This is Quran, of course. النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم. Rasulullah is reminding them and asking this question. قالوا بلى. So when they confirmed his authority over them, and also when he made sure that they have same understanding of wilayah as they had to have, then he said, Man kuntu mawla fa'aliyun mawla. So the same thing now continues. Whoever had me as his mawla, now after me, Ali is his mawla. Ali is his mawla. Allahumma wali man wala wa aadi man aada wansur man nasara wa khzul man khadala. Oh Allah, be with the one who is with Ali. Whoever has wilayah of Ali, you be their wali. In discussion about wilayah, we said wilayah can be from top to the bottom, from bottom to the top, and also horizontal. Allah is wali. Imam and Rasulullah are wali. We are also their wali. We are awliya for each other. Al-mu'min wal-mu'minat ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. So whoever is in this relation of wilayah with Ali, you be their wali. You be with them. You be their support. And whoever is hostile and enemy of Ali, you be against them. Whoever helps him, help him. Whoever abandons him, abandon them. وقد نقل المسلمون كافة هذا الحديث نقلا متواترا. All Muslims across schools of Islam have narrated this hadith in a tawatur way. Means very frequently mentioned this generation after generation. لكنهم اختلفوا في دلالته على الإمامة. So no one questions authenticity of this hadith. Yes, they disagreed about its dalala, indication. What does it mean? Whether it indicates imama or not. Some people have said Mawla means friend. Whoever I was his friend, Ali is his friend. It wouldn't match the context. Alastu awla bikum min anfusikum. And then man kuntu mawla fahaza aliyul mawla. Allahumma wali man wala, audi man aada, wansur man. Wouldn't match friendship. Friendship is too little. Especially if you remember that in his farewell Hajj, he is gathering thousands of people under heat of sun and just saying, Ali is your friend. And then what does it mean? Whoever is his wali, his friend, support him. Whoever is his enemy. Why Rasulullah should ask thousands of people just to choose Ali as their friend? I actually sometimes go further and say, okay, suppose it means friend. Suppose. You say, okay, it means friend. Doesn't this mean that Rasulullah had worries about what Ali is going to receive from people, from this ummah, or some of them, that he needed to remind them of friendship of Ali. Even if they had taken Ali as their friend, would they have treated him and his wife, children like this? Why, as we say in Dua Nutba, قُتِلَ مَنْ قُتِلَ وَصُبِيَ مَنْ صُبِي وَأُقْصِيَ مَنْ أُقْصِي? Who does this to his friend? Especially such a friend that Rasulullah is in front of thousands of people, says, the same relation I have with you, if I'm your Mawla, Ali is your Mawla, and then he's praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's such a powerful message. So even friendship was not observed. This is the problem. But we have lots of evidence that this is more than friendship. So, وجه الاستدلال به. Why we argue from this hadith for imamah? أن لفظة مولى تفيد الأولى. مولى means أولى. النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم. And Rasulullah said, Man kuntu mawla. So mawla means someone who has awlawiyya, means he has more wilaya over us than ourselves. لأن مقدمة الحديث تدل عليه. The beginning of the hadith, the way Rasulullah is preparing the minds, shows that mawla means awla. ألست أولى بكم من أنفسكم قالوا بلى قال من كنت مولاه فعلم. Number 2, ولأن عرف اللغة يقتضيه. People who know Arabic language, they understand that this is the common understanding of the term mawla. Of course, in the books like al-Ghadir, there are lots of evidence for this. Aghwal Ahl al-Lugha, all are mentioned, which make it very clear. We are just briefly give you the headings, each of them. You can find tens of pages reference for it. وكذا الاستعمال لقوله تعالى النار هي مولاكم. Also we have in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says an-nar, nar is your mawla, which means nar is awla bikum. Nar is more or a stronger guardian for you. So means nar is better for you. Then he quotes something from a famous Arab poet, which actually it's interesting to know a little bit about history of this person. Alhamdulillah, I found some information to share with you. Akhtal is a person that it is said he was very famous in his poet. He was known as Akhtal as a laqab. This was a kind of title given to him, but his own name was Qiyas ibn Salt ibn Tariqah. And some people have said ابن سيحان ابن عمرو ابن الفدوكس. His mother was from a Christian tribe. عياد من قبيلة عياد النصرانية. Akhtal himself also died as a Christian. عاش و مات نصرانيا. And he was very famous in the time of Bani Umayyah, and he praised Bani Umayyah a lot. He praised Muawiyah, he praised Yazid, he praised Bani Marwan. Even he made poems against Alawiyun, Al-Zubair also, Ansar. Whoever was against Muawiyah, or Muawiyah and Bani Umayyah were against him, he was blaming them. He was doing hajb of them. So he is a famous Arab poet who is not a lover of Amirul Mu'minin. And here we are quoting him because of his respected position in Arabic language. We don't have anything about his character or politics, etc. So, in a poem in which he praises Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the poem that Allama is mentioning here is here from a piece of poem that he made praising Abdul Malik ibn Marwan when he was chosen as a Khalifa. He says, فَمَا وَجَدَتْ فِيهَا قُرَيْشُ لَأَمْرِهَا أَعَفَّ وَأَوْفَى مِنْ أَبِيكَ وَأَمْجَدَ. He says Quraysh didn't find for their affairs someone more modest and loyal than your father. So he's praising Marwan. And then he continues and reaches this poem. فَأَصْبَحْتَ مَوْلَاهَا مِنَ النَّاسِ كُلِّهِمْ وَأَحْرَى قُرَيْشْ أَن تُهَابَ وَتُحْمَدَ. You became Mawla of Quraysh from all over humanity. You became their Mawla. And someone that Quraysh is better to have fear and to praise, for example. Or because of you, for example, Quraysh are now feared and praised. Means you have given respect and honor to them. So Allah quotes this part, فَأَصْبَحْتَ مَوْلَاهَا مِنَ النَّاسِ كُلِّهِمْ. Mawla here is used in the sense of Khalifa. This is of someone who has authority, sovereignty over people. We are using an Arab poet who is very well known for his knowledge of Arabic literature. Sheikh Mufid, in one of his books, when refers to Akhtal, he says, "Man la yut'anu alayhi fil Arabiyyah." No one can question him about his knowledge of Arabic. كان أحد شعراء العرب وفصحائهم. He was very famous. Anyway, so this is one thing he mentions. Also, for example, they say Mawla al-Abd for a slave. When they want to say so and so is the master, they say Mawla, means has wilaya over him. Awla bitadbiri, master has more authority to manage the slave than a slave himself. What tasarruf fi, he can decide and do things on behalf of the slave. ولأنها مشتركة بين معان غير مرادة هنا إلا الأولى. Mawla can have other meanings as well because it's مشترك لفظي. For example, sometimes Mawla means servant. Sometimes Mawla is used for non-Arabs. But here, none of them works except Awla. And then he says, وَلَأَنَّهُ إِمَّا كُلُّ الْمُرَادِ أَوْ بَعْضُهُ. Here, either Mawla just means Awla, or at least it must involve Awla. وَلَا يَجُوزُ خُرُوجُهُ عَنِ الْإِرَادَةِ. We cannot say Awla is not meant here. No. Either Awla, or you have to have something that includes Awla. لأنه حقيقة فيه. Because whenever you have a term and it has معنى الحقيقي, the real meaning, if you don't want to use it in that sense, you must bring قرينة. We call it قرينة صارفة. There must be an evidence that turns our mind away from معنى الحقيقي and takes to معنى المجازي, etc. They call it قرينة صارفة. But here we don't have any قرينة صارفة. Actually, we have more قرينة to confirm that it means أولى. So why we should take it to something which is not its معنى الحقيقي, and it is against also all the evidence that we have here. لأنه حقيقة فيه ولم يثبت إرادة غيره. This is about حديث غدير المتواتر. But we have also other hadith. ولحديث المنزلة المتواتر. Hadith المنزلة is also متواتر. Allah explains هذا دليل آخر على إمامة علي عليه السلام. This is another reason for Imam of Amir al-Mu'mineen. وتقريره, again we articulate it in this way. أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. You are to me like what Harun was to Musa alayhi salam. Prophet Harun was brother of Musa, was Wazir of Musa, was Khalifa of Musa when Musa went to receive the tablets. قال موسى لأخي هارون أخلفني في قومي وأصلح ولا تتبع سبيل المفسدين. So he was very close, he was partner. أشركه في أمري. So Rasulullah says أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. The only thing which is different is after me there is no prophet. Harun was a prophet. Musa also was a prophet. Harun was also a prophet. This is excluded. You are not a prophet. But anything apart from that is similar. Actually, there is a beautiful point they say in Ilmul Balagha. They say the fact that something is excluded shows umumiyah. You know, if Rasulullah just had said, Anta minni bimanzilati Haruna min Musa, it could be just in one case, one thing they are similar. Because to be like someone, it's enough to be like someone in one thing, one aspect. If they say someone is, for example, like my father, it can be like my father in his age, like my father in his appearance, like my father in his job, like my father in the respect that I have for him. It can be many things, but even one of them is enough to say he is like my father. But if I say he is like my father, except, for example, he doesn't live in our city, then it means that in everything he is similar except this point. Everything that is known, everything that is under discussion. Whatever you know about Musa and Harun, we are not saying that their height, their weight, I don't know, their ethnicity. We are not talking about these things. Those things that you know about Harun and Musa, especially in the Quran, those things, the position that Harun had for Musa are similar to what Ali alayhi salam had with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, except there is no prophet after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This istithna is very good. This is why in al-Usul we said one of the things that show generality or umum is istithna. So قال أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي وتواتر المسلمون بنقل هذا الحديث. Again, this is mentioned by all Muslims across schools of Islam, no doubt about authenticity of the hadith. لكنهم اختلفوا في دلالته على الإمامة. Again, the problem is in interpretation. وتقرير الاستدلال به. The way we argue is this: أن عليا عليه السلام له جميع منازل هارون من موسى بالنسبة إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. He has all the positions that Harun had with Musa alayhi salam and Harun had with Rasulullah. Then Allah explains why. لأن الوحدة منفية هنا للاستثناء المشروط بالكثرة. You cannot say Ali had one relation with Rasulullah which was similar to one relation of Harun with Musa. Wahda means one is manfiya, is negated, because istisna after nafi shows umum. You cannot say Ali is like Musa and Ali to Rasulullah is like Harun to Musa in one thing except that he is not Nabi. This didn't need Allah. You could just say he's like him in one thing. Why you bring Allah? As I said, actually Allah shows that there is umum. Not only kathra, not only is more than one thing that they are similar. It means that in everything that you can think of, everything which is in discussion, everything that we know about the relation in the Quran is there, except what is excluded. لأن الوحدة منفية هنا للاستثناء. إلا is for the exclusion. What is the condition for istithna? كثرة. المشروط بالكثرة. Here the phrase needs attention. Please listen carefully to the way I explain. Al-wahda means being similar in one point, one aspect. Manfiyatuna is not accepted, is negated. Why? Because there is istisna. What is the condition of istisna? Al-kathra. Al-mashruta bil-kathra. وغير العموم ليس بمراد للاستثناء المخرج ما لولاه لوجب دخوله. And you cannot say here before istisna, before illa has no umum, no generality. Because istisna works in this way, that says everything is included except this one. When I say ما رأيت رجلا إلا زيد, means I didn't see any person except Zayd. Any person other than Zayd I didn't see. I saw Zayd. So there must be umum. غير الأموم, other than generality, cannot be meant for istisna. And istisna is excluding al-mukhrij, is excluding something that if istisna was there, was included. I didn't see anyone except Zayd. If I had not said except Zayd, it means that even Zayd was not seen. This is the meaning of istisna. Kal adad, like number. When you mention number, it includes all its parts. والأصل عدم الاشتراك. Also, asl is that we must not take the istisna or other things with different meanings and take them as mushtarak. Mushtarak lafzi means something which has different meanings, because someone says maybe Allah has another meaning, maybe here Allah is not used for istisna. No, the first assumption, unless you prove, is that it has one meaning. You have to prove that it has more than this meaning. وَلِإِنْتِفَاءِ الْقَائِلِ بِالْكَثْرَةِ مِنْ دُونِ الْأُمُومِ. And there is no one who would say that istithna does not mean generality, but still there is kathra. When we said Ali to the Prophet is like Harun to Musa, except there is no Prophet after him. If someone says Ali is with Prophet like Harun to Musa in one thing, we said doesn't make sense. If someone says in few things, we say this is also not accepted. Whatever Ahlul Lugha say is umum, not one thing, not just few things. It means that everything except this one. There is no one who says kathra dun al-umum, who says just kathra is enough. When you say ma ra'aytu rajulan illa Zayd, you cannot say it means that I didn't see few people, I didn't see Amr back, I saw Zayd, but maybe I also saw other people. I just said I didn't see Amr back, for example Uthman, Yaqub. No, when you say ma ra'aytu rajulan, yani I didn't see any person except the one that I have excluded. وَلَعَدَمِ فَهْمِ الْمُرَاد مِنْ خِطَابِ الْحَكِيمِ لَوْلَا. And if it was anything else, we would not understand what did Rasulullah, who is Hakim, meaning, and when Allah is used by Allah in the Quran, what Allah means. It has to be clear. If it is umum, it's clear, means anyone except this one. But if it means few people, which few? Who are meant, who are not meant? It will be confusing. Okay. So now that it shows umum, so anything apart from nubuwwah is shared. One of the things that we know about Prophet Musa and Prophet Harun was that Prophet Harun was Khalifatu Musa when he went to receive the tablets. And this is very clearly mentioned in the Quran. It's a very outstanding thing. It's not a marginal thing. ومن جملة منازله الخلافة بعده. Then al-Murad goes further and he says, one of the things that also we know, we can add in addition to all the things that we know about, relation between Harun and Musa. And I would like here to also mention some point before I forget, that actually when someone is so close to the Prophet like Harun to Musa, suppose we didn't know anything about Khilafah, someone that from the very beginning he asked Allah, when Allah in Surah Taha, Allah says that when Allah asked him to go to Fir'aun, he said, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli waj'al li waziran min ahli. Someone that from first day was wazir for Musa. Someone that he said, strengthen my back with him. Ushdud bihi azri, ashriku fi amri, make him partner in my effort. So, how can someone be for Rasulullah like Harun was for Musa, and then we wonder what should be our decision about successor to the Prophet? You should not even for a moment, for a minute doubt if someone is that close to Rasulullah that Harun was for Musa. You shouldn't have any doubt. Now, al-Murad says, in addition to ukhlufni that we have in the time of the Musa alayhi salam, we can understand that if Harun had lived after Musa, he would have been successor to Musa. You know that Prophet Harun died when Musa alayhi salam was alive. So he didn't succeed him afterwards. But we knew, and everyone knows, with the position that he had, he would succeed him. He says, وَمِن جُمْلَةِ مَنَازِلِهِ الْخِلَافَةُ بَعْدَهُ لَوْ عَاشَ. One of the positions that Harun had with Musa alayhi salam was that he would succeed him, he would be Khalifa of Musa after him if he had lived and survived death of Musa. Why? لِثُبُوتَهَا لَهُ فِي حَيَاتِهِ. Because during his life of Musa, Khilafah was for Harun. So if Musa had died in the time of life of Harun and Harun had survived death of Musa, he would have become his Khalifa. Of course, I said you can also say with all the things that we know about the relation, Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam also should have been. So if we say what I said was that even if the hadith didn't involve Khilafah, the qualities are enough that we choose him as Khalifa. The point that Allama says is that the hadith involves also Khilafah, and Khilafah of Harun for Musa was definitely going to happen if he was alive. Both can be said as two-level arguments. In any case, what we understand from this hadith mutawatir is that Amirul Mu'minin with respect to Rasulullah was similar to Harun with respect to Musa alayhi salam, except in Nubuwwah. Amirul Mu'minin was not a prophet because there is no prophet after Rasulullah. Other things are the same. Then he mentions about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asking Amirul Mu'minin to be his Khalifa in Medina when Rasulullah was going to leave Medina. ولستخلافه, Khaja says, ولستخلافه على المدينة. because Rasulullah استخلف عليا means ask Ali to be his Khalifa على المدينة over the city of Medina during his life. فيعم, then it becomes general. للاجماع, because whoever has Khilafah over Medina would have Khilafah over the whole Ummah, because no one has said that Medina can have one Khalifa and other cities another Khalifa. Madinatul Nabi was capital, was the central point. So if someone was Khalifatul Nabi fi Madinatul Nabi, then he was Khalifa for all. Allama says هذا دليل آخر على إمامته عليه السلام. This is another argument for Imam of Amir al-Mu'minin عليه السلام. وتقريره, the articulation is like this. I mention this inshallah argument, and then we have other arguments for the next session inshallah. أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم استخلفه على المدينة وأرجف المنافقون بأمير المؤمنين. Rasulullah left Medina and left Ali in Medina. Some munafiqun, they started annoying Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, and for example saying that Rasulullah didn't want to take you, he doesn't like you, things like this. He left you with women, children. فخرج إلى النبي وقال يا رسول الله إن المنافقين زعموا أنك خلفتني استثقالا وتحرزا مني. Munafiqin, they think that you have left me here in Medina to be after you in Medina when you are away, istithqalan, because you found it heavy, means you didn't, were not happy to take me with you. Wa taharruzan minni, you wanted to avoid me, you didn't want to take me with you. فقال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كذبوا, they didn't tell the truth, they lied. إنما خلفتك لما تركت ورائي, or خلفتك, I left you Khalifa over whatever I have left behind me. فارجع فاخلفني. خلف يخلف means to be Khalifa. خلف means to make Khalifa. Like فاخلفني, Musa said to Harun, إذ قال موسى لأخيه هارون أخلفني. Connected say Harun أخلفني. So خلف يخلف is لازم, خلف يخلف is متعدي. So إنما خلفتك means I made you my Khalifa over what I left behind. فارجع فاخلفني, return and be my Khalifa. أفلا ترضى يا علي أن تكون مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى. Aren't you happy to be with respect to me like Harun was with Musa? إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي, except that there is no prophet after me. Some of the points here are similar to what we had in Hadith al-Manzila, but this here the focus is on the city of Medina, and there is another dimension to this that we mentioned. And it seems that Rasulullah said this more than once on different occasions. وَإِذَا كَانَ خَلِيفَتُهُ عَلَى الْمَدِينَةِ فِي تِلْكَ الْحَالِ, when Amir al-Mu'minin was Khalifatun Nabi ala al-Madina, over the city of Medina in that time during his life, وَلَمْ يَعْزِلْهُ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ, and he never fired him or dismissed him from this position. قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ, before he passed away. Wala ba'dahu, after this time. So he was not dismissed. So it means that استمرت ولايته عليها. This wilaya continued. فلا يكون غيره خليفة عليها. So other than Ali would not be Khalifa over Medina. وإذا انتفت خلافة غيره عليها. If other than Ali is not Khalifa over Medina, then they cannot be Khalifa at all. Because you cannot say, okay, they cannot be Khalifa over Medina, but they can be Khalifa for Mecca and other cities. This is what Khaja had briefly mentioned. فيعم للاجماع was said by Khaja. It was referring to this point. إذا انتفت خلافة غيره عليها. When Khilafah of other than Ali over other cities other than Medina is rejected, انتفت خلافته على غيرها للإجماع. Then they can, when they cannot have wilaya over Medina, Khilafah over Medina, they cannot have over any city, because there is ijma that separation cannot happen. We cannot have two Khalifa, one for Medina, one for other cities. إذا انتفت خلافة غيره, it means خلافة غير علي عليها, means على المدينة. If other than Ali has no Khilafah over Medina, then Khilafat other than Ali over other than Medina also would be rejected. للاجماع, because ijma cannot be separated. فثبت الخلافة له, so he is Khalifa for all. لا يقال, this is دخل مقدر. He himself is similar, of course, to that, because he's mentioning the objection and answering. Maybe someone says, sometimes Rasulullah appointed other people also when he was traveling, and Ali was also with him. Maybe he had appointed other people. Or, for example, for other cities, for example, maybe Rasulullah on different occasions had appointed different people. لا يقال قد استخلف النبي جماعة على المدينة وعلى غيرها. Rasulullah had appointed as successor in his absence several people for Medina or other than Medina. ومع ذلك فليسوا أئمة عندكم, but you Shia don't accept them as Imam. If being appointed as Khalifa over Medina was enough, then why you don't accept those people as your Imam? لأننا نقول, because we say إن بعضهم عضله, some of them we know that the Prophet himself was not happy with them and dismissed them. والباقون, and other people are not in our discussion. لم يقل أحد بإمامتهم. There is ijma. Sunni Shia have not said that they are Imam. We are referring to this case because according to you, this should be enough. According to us, we have more obvious reasons for Imam of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam. But this is a kind of argument that we can use, a kind of ijma' murakkab. We say, among the four Khalifa after Rasulullah that succeeded him, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth, only Ali was the one that Rasulullah said that you are my Khalifa over Medina and you are to me like Harun was for Musa, except that there is no prophet after me. The others don't have such thing. So if you bring a fifth person, neither Shia nor Sunnis accept them, and they don't have such qualifications that are needed. I think what we can say is we can emphasize on this similarity between relation of Prophet Musa and Harun and Rasulullah and Amirul Mu'mineen, and the fact that Rasulullah mentioned this on one more than occasion, but at one occasion when he was leaving Medina and making Ali Khalifa. This means that Ali's Khilafah over Medina was a special one. Maybe if he had appointed someone for Medina or other places, it was a practical decision. He was there, Ali was traveling. But when he is saying this to Ali, and he doesn't just say, you are my Khalifa, as he said to other people. He also said, Anta minni. Did Rasulullah say this for other people? This is my question. Those who say Rasulullah had appointed other people, we say, did Rasulullah tell them, you are to me like Harun was to Musa, except there is no prophet? No. So this shows that when he is appointing Ali as his Khalifa, it has another dimension. It's not just a practical decision. We say someone, to look after this city till I come back, when he is away and Ali is away. And also we can add another point. Is there any time that Rasulullah was away and Ali was there and he appointed someone else as Khalifa? This is also very important. If Ali was there, definitely he was Khalifa. But if both of them are away, okay, then it doesn't show that that person is better than Ali. Inshallah, we continue this discussion bi'iznillah next week. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do we have any question?
There was one question, and you have shed a lot of light on different aspects. Still, it could be useful to ask it, and you can treat it whichever way you like. So the question was, did the Prophet appoint some other people? The answer is yes, because you said that he appointed other people, especially in terms of cities, perhaps even battles. So if so, what was the wisdom in that, especially that some of them seem to have made significant mistakes during their appointment and or after their appointment? And in one case, actually, I don't want to name the person, but there was a significant mistake and the Prophet also reappointed, if that account is correct.